Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Authentic Podcast with Justin Doulard. And thank you for tuning in to another episode. It's time!
Well, Dani, welcome to the Authentic Podcast. Thank you for being flexible and coming on today after some errors and stuff yesterday with the power, but glad to have you. I know that you've been working with Lindsay for a while now, or at least she was a part of your team. And then we've been following your content for quite some time. I just want to applaud you and say that I love your content. I love the stuff you put out. We eat one of your, I don't know if they're your recipes or if you just reshare them, but we eat them probably at least weekly, if not more. Usually we'll meal prep probably one of your recipes, if not two for the week. So thank you for putting out good content, and thank you for all the food, the healthy food you share.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited. And honestly, this works out better because now we get to podcast while I sip on my Sunday morning coffee. So I'm here for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to kind of dive right in and talk about you and your history and kind of how you got to become where you are as the founder of Pivot Nutrition, a registered dietitian and a sports nutritionist. I know a lot of people go to college and they have a completely different plan than what they're doing in their post-college career. So with that said, you were also is a Division I college athlete, is that correct?
Yep.
Former
D1 hockey.
Player? Yeah.
Yep. Being Canadian, there's only a few things that you typically go play sports for, and ice hockey is probably number one.
And so where did you grow up?
Sudbury, Ontario. It's about 4 hours north of Toronto. If you look at the Great Lakes on a map, above Lake Huron.
And so you came to the States in Vermont to play hockey in college, and you've been here ever since.
Yep, that was in 2010. Before Vermont, I did kind of an in-between year in British Columbia, which is a whole part of my story. It's kind of like it goes all the way back to high school, where it kind of makes me laugh now that there's all these graduation parties right now, and most of these kids know where they're going to school. They're wearing their University of Nebraska t-shirts, like this is where I'm going. And when I graduated from high school, first I skipped my high school graduation to go to a recruiting tournament for soccer because I was still on the mission to get a Division I scholarship, and I was super delayed in achieving that. So I kind of took a year off after high school and spontaneously moved across the country to British Columbia to have one last chance at getting the scholarship that I always dreamed of. It just never ended up falling into my lap like most people. Their sophomore years, their junior years. So when I graduated, I had no game plan for college, which was not a good feeling. And if I could go back, I think I would do it a little differently. But also looking at my life now, it would be completely different. So I guess I shouldn't go back and change a thing.
So you said soccer.
Yeah, so I was a two-sport athlete, soccer, hockey, and it was my entire life. It was, am I going to play college soccer or college hockey? And it was whatever one gave me the best scholarship offer, basically. And there was a school I was even considering for a dual scholarship for both. But when I moved to British Columbia, it was to play for a prep school that had a really good hockey program. So that's when I chose hockey at the last minute. Like, all right, we're going hockey. This is my last shot. And within 2 months of being at this hockey academy, I got my first D1 offer. So it was really nice that my spontaneous overnight decision to move cross country at 17 years old worked out for the best.
That's awesome. So did you go into college after your year off knowing that you wanted to do this type of work, or is that something completely different from what you had planned?
No, I started off as a bio major in high school. I love biology, just genetics, and I love science. And I was kind of like a like a jock, but also a nerd at the same time. I played all the sports, but I was just super nerdy. And
A mathlete?
yeah, I was pre-med. I was bio/pre-med, and my goal was to be a pediatrician because I love science and I love kids and I love people and I wanted to help people. But once I got to the Division I level, my freshman year, I was riding the bench most games. And when you're in your smaller hometown and you're one of the best players and you're a captain, it's a really hard transition to go from, I'm one of the best to I'm riding the bench. And I think that's a lot of people once they get to that next level, because D1 sports is all the best players from all the schools. So then when you end up there, you're like, uh-oh, this is everybody. This is all the best people. And now I have to start from square one where I have to work my way back up all over again. And it was just heartbreaking that I worked my whole life to get to the D1 level. It was really sad graduating, not knowing what I was doing, especially since I was always successful at everything I did. So it was the first time I felt almost like a failure. So once I got there and I wasn't getting a lot of playing time, and I felt like, oh my gosh, like a lot of these players and most of these players are better than I am. What am I going to do about it? Because it wasn't good enough for me to just put on the jersey. That's not me. I never settle for mediocrity. And so I asked myself, what can I do during the 3.5, 4-month summer break so that my sophomore year I can play a little bit more? Because again, I just didn't want to be a part of the team. I wanted to play. I wanted to make an impact because no one likes to sit on the bench. And so that's when I changed the way I ate. I started, quote unquote, eating like an athlete. As my personal trainer said, he goes, you need to start eating like an athlete. You're eating like a high school kid. I was living on, like Subway sandwiches and ramen noodles and toaster strudels, your classic high school food that I see when I have incoming high school athletes. And I'm like, listen, nutrition is not everything, but it does make a big difference, especially at the next level. And so that summer I got super strong, super lean. It was the leanest, fastest, strongest I've ever been. I still remember bench pressing 135, and I'm a small person. I'm 5'3". So when I, put up those 45s on each side with like the high school gym boys walking by, and I was like this tiny little blonde, 120-pound thing, they're just like, oh my gosh, like this is really crazy. So it was really cool to go back to school and just be faster and stronger and leaner and kind of the best athletic version of myself I've ever seen. And it was all because for 4 months I was fueling my body like an athlete and I was doing it the right way. And that's as soon as I got back to school and I noticed that performance difference, I told myself, I have to help people do this. I have to be a sports dietitian. And that's when I went to the guidance counselor and I was like, hey, I need to switch my major from pre-med to dietetics. And I still laugh at this because the first thing she said, she goes, okay, like before you do this, I need to point out like the salary difference. I still remember her showing me these numbers. I was like, I don't care. Like I want a job that I'm passionate about and, that I love every single day. And if that means I make $50K instead of, whatever doctors make, I was like, that's okay, because I know I'm going to be happy because it's my passion. And so that's when I kind of pursued the sports nutrition route. But because I was like, what if I change my mind? I did it the hard way and I did sports nutrition with all the pre-med requisites. So instead of taking the easy organic chemistry, I took the pre-med orgo, which I highly don't recommend if you're not going to go that route, because there's nothing harder than university organic chemistry pre-med version.
While playing a sport too.
Exactly. I was studying orgo at 4 a.m. on bus trips while everyone else was napping, because if you didn't, it was almost like a second sport. If you didn't do orgo, like practice questions all the time, you were not passing that class.
So you knew you wanted to do sports dietetics or dietitian and help people out. But I imagine pivot was not your first job out of college, correct?
No, right out of school after Vermont, I decided to pursue a master's degree. St. Louis University had a really cool program. It was an accelerated program where you can get a master's and your RD credentials and your personal trainer certification in 12 months. And even though I loved school and I was good at it, I just wanted to start making money. I was a broke college athlete, had to borrow money from my parents, had to get loans. Even though I had a scholarship, you still have to pay for life, right? And I was like, I just want to start working. I don't want to be in school for 10 years. So the accelerated program seemed like a great idea. And I'm kind of like a just get it done kind of person. Like if there's a faster way with the same result, let's do it. So went to St. Louis for a year basically. And that's when I got my master's in performance. Well, it's called nutrition and physical performance. And while I was in St. Louis, a friend of mine told me about the company Exos when we were all talking about our next steps, where we're all going to move, where we're all going to work. And being that I was single and like 23 years old, and I already had not been home for 5 years, I was like, I don't really care where I move. I can move anywhere at this point. I have no ties, and I don't really want to go back home. And so I applied for the performance dietitian job at Exos, and they had 3 different locations with job openings at the time. And I love telling the story because people laugh at me. And, knowing what North Dakota is like, you'll think it's funny too. The other 2 locations were California and Texas. Those are completely different places than North Dakota, but being a Canadian hockey player and Grand Forks, North Dakota being a cold hockey town, I chose North Dakota over the other 2 specifically to apply to because I said, North Dakota, that's my people. Basically, like people that can endure cold weather and hockey players. So I was like, that's the one. People are like, what? What do you mean that's the one? You chose North Dakota over California and Texas? And I'm like, yup. And it was kind of a 3-year plan where I had only planned on being here for 3 years. Because I moved to Grand Forks in 2015 for this sports. It was called a performance dietitian. So I'd be working with athletes and adults within a gym setting. And that was in 2015. I'm still here.
Was that with the university or?
Nope. It was connected with the health system. So the health system here, or the hospital system, is called Altru. So it was a partnership between Exos, which is a nationwide company where they train lots of pro athletes, NFL combine athletes, but the location in North Dakota was more going to be for an adult population. So yeah, it was a health system partnered with a gym. So I wasn't a clinical dietitian. I was basically a sports dietitian under a health system umbrella.
Yeah. Kind of like you mentioned, I feel like most people would choose California, then Texas, or either of the 2 and not North Dakota. But I mean, you make a good point. You're basically a North Dakotan by nature, being Canadian hockey player. So I always called North Dakota Southern Canada.
Right. And, everywhere I've ever moved, I've just made friends walking into a hockey rink. And that's exactly what I did when I moved to Grand Forks. I didn't know anybody, but I just found out when the men's league hockey was, the beer league, and I just showed up, and this guy was like, you should join our team. And that's been my team ever since 2015. And they became my friends, and I would go to the Sioux hockey games with these dads and these like random guys. That was like my friend group for the first 6-7 months of living in Grand Forks.
That's awesome. So what led you to take on your own entity or your own business from doing the job you had? Because it sounded like the job that you had moving there was something that you liked and wanted to do. So something must have led you to want to do your own work, I assume.
Yeah, I would say it's a combination of COVID and just me realizing that I couldn't do exactly what I wanted, because when you're under a health system, you have to follow so many rules and standards, and you can't always practice what you believe in and doing it the way that you want to do. So it was a combination of both, where in 2020, when COVID hit, one of my dietitian friends posted that she was taking this online certification to basically learn how to start an online business. And that was never something I planned on doing because I'm such an in-person person. Like, I love people and I really love being in person with them. I do a lot of Zoom presentations now, and nothing compares to the in-person presentations with crowds. I love public speaking, so online was never something that I imagined doing long term. But with COVID, it was really scary because, one, as a Canadian working in the US, I was on a temporary work visa, right? And so when COVID happened and people started losing their jobs or getting laid off, it was scary for me because I didn't know what would happen with my immigration status. I wasn't married yet. And I was like, I got to come up with a backup plan here. What if the gym closes? Because I worked for a gym and gyms were starting to close pretty quickly all over the world. And so I was like, I got to come up with a backup plan. And online one-on-one coaching kind of fit that bill, especially once I found out about this certification. And I took it just for fun, honestly, just to be better at my job. There was a year, I think it was kind of 2019 to 2020, where I started doing less dietitian stuff at my work, and I actually became a trainer at the gym. So I was one of the performance coaches, and I was training adults and athletes. And being that I was an athlete, God, it was so great to just like, train people all day and move my body and, like demo box jumps and lifts. And it was almost more fun. And I felt like I loved it more than being a dietitian for a while, which kind of made me sad because I think when you invest so much time and energy and money into your degree and then you don't use it, it's kind of like this heartbreaking situation. And there was like a solid 6 months where I was like, I don't know if I love being a dietitian anymore. And I think it was just because I wasn't coaching people the right way. My clients weren't getting the best results, and I didn't know how to help them get those results because almost everything that I do now in my business and my coaching program is not things that you learn in school, and that's the problem. In school you learn organic chemistry and physics and math, and you don't learn how to help people, like lose 10% body fat, which is what people want. And you don't learn how to improve someone's relationship with food. You don't learn how to help someone increase awareness and, manage emotional eating. So taking this certification was kind of the pivotal point for me where I started learning how to coach people to have better success because it's a coaching certification paired with how to start a very simple business. And so what I started to do within this health system, once I got approved from the manager, was I started implementing everything I was learning in this course into my job at the gym. And we started getting outside clients other than the gym because people wanted to work with me one-on-one to achieve their goals. And more people were showing up, and I was doing more of that and less of the training. And I asked for a raise because I started to bring in like a couple $1,000s a month just nutrition coaching these outside non-gym members. And when I asked for what I thought I deserved, they were like, we can't give you that. And I was like, all right, well, and at this point the gym was shutting down. It was closing. So they wanted me to stay within the health system and keep doing what I was doing, of course, because I was bringing in money. But once everybody left and the gym closed, it wasn't the same. And I was like, I don't want to stay here. They wanted me to also do things for the health system that I didn't believe in. It's kind of not, like shakes and stuff. So, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to promote this. This is not what I believe in. And that's when I decided to walk away and start Pivot so that I could do nutrition the way that I wanted to do and help people the way that I really believed in.
That stemmed into one of my next questions that I had was, what are some of your bigger pet peeves, or I guess not pet peeves, some of those standard medical practices that you probably had to do, or advice you had to offer prior to opening Pivot? Some of those things you talked about, like maybe the shakes, or giving people coaching or nutrition advice that just wasn't aligned with your beliefs or results.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just all the standards of like everything like through the health system, just that you know, like just the way that you have to go about nutrition. It's very almost like you have to be more careful, which I understand. Liability is a thing. But for me, the biggest turnoff and the reason that I walked away so quickly is when they wanted me to teach the weight management program or, you know, make it kind of my new role. And even though it has helped people lose, you know, hundreds of pounds, I don't believe that you need to drink 5 shakes a day to achieve fat loss. And a lot of people that come to Pivot have done that program. They've lost a bunch of weight and they've gained it back. So it just comes to show that it's not always sustainable just because it works short term. And before making my decision, they told me to sit in on one of these weight management classes. So I was like, yeah, of course. Like, I'm open to it. I don't really know what it's about. I'm kind of judging it from what I've heard. So I decided to sit in on a class, and that's when I left, I was almost rageful. I remember calling someone saying, I can't do this, because it broke my heart. There was this young girl that was about my age at the time. She was probably 26 years old or 27, and she was telling the health coach that it was her birthday that upcoming weekend. And she asked the health coach what to do, and the health coach told her to pick one of the diet desserts within the scope of the program to enjoy on her birthday. And I love birthdays and I love dessert, and I was like, no, it doesn't have to be this way. Like, she can go to like Applebee's and get a molten chocolate lava cake if that's what she wants. And it just was so frustrating that the answer to this girl's birthday, because she's in this diet program, like it was just like very black and white, like these are the rules and you have to follow the rules. And we believe in consistency but not perfection, and it was like it had to be this way. And I know that a lot of people cheated on those rules because they're in our program, where they're like, yeah, I would drink the shakes Monday through Friday, but by the weekend, I just wanted to like have pizza and beer. Well, of course, because humans want what they can't have. And then something else, like you could have unlimited fruits and veggies in this program, but if you made a garden salad, you couldn't add a chicken breast to it. You had to drink the shakes to get your protein in. And I was like, no, I can't do this. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not going to tell someone to make a salad and not add a protein. And so it was just small things like that, where it was just like, it was a rule book that you had to follow. And I think that if I would have had to work in this situation, I would have broke the rules and probably got fired anyway.
Why do you think that we have gotten to an all or nothing stage, at least on the American side of the diet, nutrition? Do you have any thoughts on where you think that came from, or why we're tuned to do that? Because I mean, for example, I am like that, or I used to be. I'm getting better. Have the all or nothing mentality. I either, eat what I want and I splurge and I gain all this weight, or, just like a wildfire, or then I'll be like you said, that woman, I can't have anything outside of this window. If I do, I just feel guilty and I feel bad and I feel like I gained 5. So kind of what we were talking about before it cut out just a bit, is the quality of the food in America. Is it as big a problem as we portray, or is that kind of an excuse we use for our lack of movement and maybe our overconsumption? I do know we have, quite a bit more options as far as fast food, or maybe unhealthier items, but I didn't know if that was, kind of an excuse that we use for our obesity issues, and wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's interesting because a few weeks ago, someone that I follow on social media, I believe she's a dietitian, she went to Europe and she found very similar products to the US ones, but there were less additives, less food dyes, food colorings, artificial ingredients, things like that. And she was showing us all these very similar products. Just for example, let's say it was, the US version of Cinnamon Toast Crunch versus the European one, and that's just an example. I don't think that's what it was, but just how different the ingredients lists were. So that was really interesting to see, and obviously this is someone who's like a mom, so she was like, gosh, I wish our food had less crap, but I don't think that that's the main issue. Like, yes, it doesn't help that we have all these fast food options because, there's McDonald's in Europe, right? McDonald's is everywhere, and there's fast food everywhere for the most part, and there's great and not so great choices everywhere. I think that, I don't know, technology plays a part in it, but I would say it's the way that we are raised, right? Like if your parents raise you on fast food, and if your parents don't cook, and if your parents aren't active, I'm pretty sure the statistic is if your parents are obese, you have a 95% chance of being obese. I just read that last week in an article, and it just breaks my heart. But to answer your question about, I think, quality and fat loss is not really about quality. I would say that quality matters more when it comes to improving health and improving health markers. And then when it comes to fat loss, it's more about quantity. You can't lose pounds or inches or body fat if you're not in a calorie deficit. But at the same time, you don't just want to lose weight. You want to be healthy. Most people lose weight for two reasons. They want to be healthier, but they also want to look and feel better. It's a combination. So what we try to instill in our program is a combination of both, where you're eating the right amount of food that your body needs to achieve XYZ, but you're also utilizing as many quality foods as possible. I really don't know if, it's the quality of US foods that's the problem. I think it's the choices we make, right? 95% of the time, especially as an adult, you choose what food goes in your mouth. When you're a toddler, not so much, right? You have a toddler, you probably decide what he eats, but, well, you try anyway.
Yeah.
But I think that we make our own choices, and there are good choices, there are great choices, and we're just not making them most of the time. Whether that's lack of nutrition knowledge, which many people lack. The fact that they don't teach kids how to eat in school blows my mind. I get asked to go teach in the schools a few times a year, and I feel like what they teach the kids is it reminds me of the nutrition I learned in college, where it's like, these are macronutrients and this is the biochemistry and things like that. Instead, we're not teaching kids how to build a balanced lunch to give them more energy, how to build a balanced snack. Like it's like we're teaching them the book stuff, but not the usable real life stuff. And that's where I come in. I'm like, all right, kids, this is how you build a balanced breakfast. Like pair a protein and a fruit or a veggie and a whole grain, instead of just teaching kids, these are whole grains, these are proteins. Like, what's the point of teaching them all these things if they can't use it in real life? Like, they took out home ec, right? Like, that's what they used to call it, home ec, or that's what they called it when my mom was in school. We used to teach kids how to cook in school. Kids don't know how to cook anymore, right? So I think that's a huge problem. So when it comes to the obesity epidemic, I think it's a combination of technology is making us lazy. Kids aren't playing outside as much. right? They're on their devices 24/7. I mean, I'm guilty too because I'm on my device 24/7. I also have an online business, so I feel like that's kind of an excuse, right? But I don't actually want to be on my device all day. As soon as I can, like I'm outside in the weather, but it's like technology, and we don't know how to cook anymore. We're cooking less and less, and we're not taught how to eat. We're not. And then when we get old enough to care, we Google it, and Google is confusing because if you type how to be healthy or how to lose weight, you have 20 million different options that are all contraindicative. And you're like, well, is it this? Is it this? Should I go vegan? Should I do keto? Should I fast? Should I just do a detox? And then you're overwhelmed with all these options that you choose nothing, right? When we're overwhelmed and we're confused, we're at a standstill, and then we don't make any changes because it's so confusing, and we'd rather not be confused. And no one wants to think that they're doing the wrong thing, and that's why a lot of people reach out. They're like, I'm just confused and overwhelmed, and I tried to do this on my own, and I just don't know what to do. Tell me what to do.
It's a really good point when you talk about having so many choices. You'll get, if I give you a dozen restaurants to choose from, you're like, I don't know even where to start. But if I give you pick one of these two, it's much easier. Like they say, less is more. Keeping things simplified.
Nutrition is simple. People overcomplicate it so much. I just recorded an episode with Sam, one of our dietitians who actually coached your wife through her journey. And we were talking about how complicated people make nutrition. And just yesterday, for example, my husband and I went golfing, and after golf, it was 11:30 a.m. It was almost time for lunch. And I was like, what do you want to do for lunch? But we have to go to Sam's Club first to get groceries. He's like, well, let's just get sushi from Sam's Club. And I'm like, well, we can't just have sushi for lunch because there's not enough protein in sushi to make a balanced meal, right? A balanced meal, if we're going to simplify it, protein, carb, produce, right? Sushi is basically straight carbs. It's white sticky rice with very minimal protein and produce within those tiny little rolls. So even though it's a weird combination, and I posted this on my Instagram yesterday, I had like 9 cute little sushi rolls, California rolls, and then I just added a cup of cottage cheese and a handful of berries. And people are like, oh, I can eat that for lunch? And I'm like, yes. Why do people think it has to be complicated? Protein, carb, produce, and just having the right portions for you. And that's where we come in and we teach people what those portions are, either in numbers, like macros or grams or calories, or if they don't want to go that route, if they don't want to go the macros route, if they don't want to track their calories, we're like, okay, this is approximately the right portion for you. So again, I think people think nutrition is complicated, but I think everyone's overcomplicating it. And that's probably because it's so confusing in books, online. It's just, I think that's where it comes from. It's not their fault. And that's why we really pride ourselves in education at the beginning of our clients' journeys, because knowledge is power. And if you know how to eat, that's going to lead to much more sustainable results than just cut carbs. Cut carbs, that's not education, that's a rule. But if we teach people about carbs and how much they need and which ones are better options and why are they better options and how to read a nutrition label, now they can be self-sufficient, and now knowledge is power, and they know what to do and why it makes sense.
Yeah, it's just funny you mentioned cutting carbs. Like when I would kind of be in a mindset of not maybe cutting carbs, but extremely low. I feel like I could have gained a lot of knowledge from, over the course of a year and a half of following people like you and another gentleman I follow named Tyler. But I feel like when I cut low carbs or cut carbs down, I could like smell bread from like a mile away. Like prior to that, it's just a sandwich. But when you're doing those things, you're, like you said, you want what you can't have. You just walk into Walmart and you're like, I can smell the bread out. Like I could eat a whole loaf right now and not even blink.
100%. People want what they can't have, and that's why it doesn't work. Most people that are on super restrictive diets, they're inconsistent because they feel restricted, right? Whether it's they're in a calorie deficit and they're just like calorie restricted, or they're cutting carbs or cutting fats or cutting out time, right? Fasting. Restriction leads to cravings, and then we don't make good choices. So that's why we promote the balance, where you can have pizza while you're in a calorie deficit, or if you're just at maintenance, like you can have these things. It's about finding a balance. And I truly believe that nutrition is a balancing act, and people fear that because they're like, oh, I know myself, I can't do balance. Like if I have one slice of pizza, I'll have 5. That's where we have to fix this person's relationship with food. That's where we have to pivot their mindset and work on this skill, because a lot of what we teach are skills for people to listen to their bodies and manage emotions, because nutrition is simple, but it's also coming from a really deep-rooted place. Like I said, childhood behaviors and breaking habits that are years and years deep. That doesn't happen overnight.
I think that is a good point. Like I'm that way with like tortilla chips. Like if I go to a Mexican restaurant, it's like, okay, I'm either doing 0 or about like 2 baskets to myself. There's just no in between for me. But you say it's years of habits. It makes me think about, I don't know, when I was in high school or college or junior high, when I was playing sports and running around and probably burning, 2,000 calories a day or whatever the number is. I could do those things and maybe still, lose calories from all the activities. Yeah. And so it makes sense that you cut those habits do take time to change, because you're like, well, now I'm not moving as much. I'm sitting at my computer all day, or, working in an office versus walking around and playing sports all day. So.
Right. And your metabolic rate is so much higher when you're in high school, and when you're an athlete. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle after sport, is that, and I struggled with this too when I was in my master's program a year after D1 hockey. I didn't know how to eat like a normal non-athlete, and I didn't know how to exercise like a non-athlete. And that's why we love working with former athletes, because me and a few people on my team, we've been there, and it's a really, really tough transition. And I also think that we need to be realistic that we might never be our high school selves again, right? People, especially in their 40s and 50s, they'll be like, well, when I got married, I weighed 130. And I'm like, that was 30 years ago, girlfriend. Like, we have to adjust our expectations more than anything. And it's okay to do that. And we should do that, because I'm all about like setting goals and being intense, but there comes a point where you have to also face reality that when you're 50, you're probably never going to have the body you were when you got married at 25. And that's okay. But we have to accept that. And that's a mindset thing. It's not, it's not a fat loss thing. That's a mindset.
Sure. So we talked about you eating sushi with cottage cheese and some produce, kind of patched together a meal at Sam's Club. So for people, someone had asked, what would be a go-to meal of yours that would hit all the buckets? Like if I'm like, hey, Dani, for the next 3 weeks, you're going to eat this meal for lunch and dinner. It's going to be decent. It's going to hit all the buckets, and it's going to be fulfilling. What would that be?
Well, right now, since it's summer and I feel like people are running around so much, my new favorite go-to, which is like a 12-minute meal, is air fryer chicken burgers from Sam's Club or Costco. The brand that we get right now, it's Amy Lou. I don't know where you can get them elsewhere, but you can get chicken burgers elsewhere. I was just at Aldi's right before this call, and they had some chicken burgers, and I was like, oh, didn't know they had these here. This is good to know, because not everybody has a Sam's Club or a Costco membership. But what we've been doing for the past 2 weeks, because we had our gender reveal, and we were like, I was in Winnipeg for a concert. So it's been, typically I like to meal prep on the weekends, but it hasn't been realistic. And I think it's important to have these very fast go-to balance meals. So air fryer chicken burgers, it's magical. You literally put in the air fryer for 7 minutes, and then this patty is ready. And then buns, and then a veggie, right? The chicken burger is the protein, the bun is the carb, and it doesn't matter what kind of bun you use, if you want to use white or whole wheat, but you want to pair that with a veggie. I say always add a veggie. And I think
You do always say that.
oh, add a veggie. When in doubt, add a veggie. And it's not hard. It's just people are lazy. And sometimes I want to be lazy too, and I don't want to add a veggie. But I just know that I'm going to feel better if I add a veggie. And also, the growing baby inside me wants veggies. So that's also like very helpful. Just I'm like, God, no, baby needs veggies right now. So while the chicken burgers in the air fryer for 7 minutes, steam a bag of vegetables in the microwave. I have a silicone steamer, which is my all-time favorite thing. The brand is Epicure. It's a Canadian company, but now they've kind of like waved into the US. And it's super awesome because I'll take asparagus, I'll chop off the ends because the ends are gross, and you can't really eat them. And I'll put that in the microwave for like 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Then I'll just transfer it to a pan, a little olive oil, salt, and pepper. Boom. I call it 5-minute lazy veggies, and it's great. It tastes great. It's way better than just steamed microwave vegetables. Now I have a burger. Yay. Yes, you can have a burger and still be healthy and achieve your goals. I have a veggie. Boom. It's a magical thing. And my husband and I have been living on these Amy Lou chicken burgers for like 2 weeks now when we just want a quick dinner or a quick lunch. That would be one of my favorite summer examples of that. In the winter, I'm much more of like a crock pot, warm food kind of person, chili and, chicken burrito bowls. Again, like it doesn't have to be complicated. I could probably come up with a few examples today or tomorrow since it's a long weekend. We're going to make beef and broccoli stir fry, and it's pretty simple. It's just brown the ground beef. While it's browning, I whip up this sauce that's like, soy sauce, apple cider vinegar, honey. I think there's like rice vinegar in there, garlic. And then once the beef is cooked, just drain out the fat, add the sauce, add the raw broccoli. That all kind of simmers together in the flavor. While that's cooking in a large pan, I'm microwaving rice bags. I don't cook rice. People that know me and that listen to my podcast know that rice and I don't have a good relationship, and I cannot cook rice on the stovetop to save my life. And my friend was like, just get a rice cooker. And I'm like, the last thing I need as we're trying to, sell our house and get a new one is another small appliance. So I'm like, no, I just can't. So those 90-second microwave rice bags are a game changer. And we use them anytime we have a recipe with rice, like stir fries, anything like that. We use 90-second rice bags because I'm not going to cook rice. It's not going to go well. So that's just one of those things where I invest a little bit more money in rice because rice is pretty inexpensive and the bags are, I would say, a little pricey. But it's a game changer for us because it makes cooking that much easier. And sometimes you just have to find those staples that work for you and your family. And our shortcut is microwave rice. So we just microwave whatever amount of pouches makes sense for the beef and broccoli, and we just dump it in, and boom, beef and broccoli, done.
I am also a 90-second rice fan, so certainly agree.
Yeah. I haven't cooked rice since 2016. I don't think.
What are your thoughts on athletic greens as a supplement?
How did I know this question would come about?
Did you see it?
I did not see it, but I feel like almost every conversation I have with someone that's like, oh, I have a question for you. I'm like, I bet you they're going to ask me about athletic greens.
Really? That's one of the number ones, huh?
It's probably in the top 3 right now. Like high school athletes will reach out to me or just random clients like, hey, by the way, like on their check-in forms, there's a question that's like, what questions do you have for me? And they're like, I want to talk about athletic greens because my sister-in-law is using them or my son wants to use them. I haven't, I'll be honest, I have not looked at the nutrition label in a while, at least 6 months. But it's a supplement, right? So let's go that route. A supplement, literally, if you Google it, means to add or in addition to. Athletic Greens is not a replacement for fruits and veggies. It's not. And there's a million greens powders out there. Athletic Greens is just one of them. The only thing I like about it more than the majority of them is that Athletic Greens, if I remember correctly, is NSF certified for sport, which means it's third-party tested and it's free of banned substances for athletes that get drug tested. So yay, high five for that. But Athletic Greens is not the same as eating fruits and vegetables. So what I tell my athletes, because I feel like they ask this the most because athletic, right? It's for athletes, is eat your fruits and veggies. And if you want to have Athletic Greens in addition to your fruits and veggies, great. But we're not going to not eat fruits and veggies and live on this greens powder. It's not the same thing. And it's expensive. It's like, what, $54 for a container? You can get a lot of frozen fruits and veggies for the same amount, and you'll get way more nutrition benefits from fresh or frozen fruits and veggies. So can it be a part of your diet? Yes. Is it worth the investment? I don't think so.
Okay, good insight. I am going to keep rolling through some of these questions because there's some that I wanted to ask that people had asked for me or told me to bring up. So this one's a fun one. Thoughts on the new fad diabetic medication for weight loss that seems to be a trend? Do you know about that?
Are we talking about Ozempic?
Maybe. I'm not sure because I don't follow a ton of it, and I've never looked at diabetic medication for weight loss.
They might be talking about Ozempic or GLP-1.
I think people are taking it and losing pounds like flying off.
Yeah. I want to say it's GLP-1. I don't. So this is a hard question because I haven't read all the articles or the research about it. If anything, I see Instagram posts about it.
Yeah.
Right? And I kind of see it and I just read the title and I move on just because at the end of the day, nutrition and exercise will always win. Always. We've had clients on Ozempic, last year or a year and a half ago and lost a quick 35 pounds. But guess what? They gained it back because they don't have a good relationship with food. They don't have a good foundation of healthy habits. And that's really what it takes to have sustainable results. So am I happy for people who take this drug or medication and lose a bunch of weight? Yes, sure. But at the end of the day, I would say it's kind of like a Band-Aid solution where, yes, it's going to help, but what happens when you plateau? What happened, you can't rely on a pill to improve health. I don't think we're at that point yet. And yes, it can be a part of a weight loss program. These pills I have seen do work, but the best thing you can do if you're going to take these pills is the pill plus exercise plus nutrition combined. That's the trifecta right there. And it's just like any supplement, really. And I know this is a medication versus a supplement, but you can't out-supplement a poor diet. And I truly believe you can't out-medicate a poor diet either. And the benefits from nutrition and strength training and walking, I think, outweigh most things. And especially if, I don't know if these medications or drugs are covered by insurance. And if they're not, then people are paying a lot of money for this weight loss drug when it would probably be a smaller investment to walk 10,000 steps per day.
Yeah, one's harder than the other. So I think it's just
Right.
effort and not an easy fix. And I say
Yeah,
harder than the other. One is you
right.
take a pill. One is, you go out and do the hard stuff, exercise when you don't want to, when you're pregnant, when you're tired from work, um, all those things. I'm sure you don't want to, the last thing you want to do sometimes is go walk your last 3,000 steps. But, I imagine you're doing it most days.
Yeah, that's the athlete in me still. But it is hard. I'm not going to say that weight loss or nutrition or improving health is easy. It's not. I said it can be simple, but that doesn't mean that it's easy. I think nutrition is the easiest thing to say and the hardest thing to do, right? And I think in January, everybody says it like, I'm going to eat healthier this year. That's really easy to say, but it's really hard to do because life happens. There's always going to be barriers to eating healthy or the way that you want to, because wedding season, hockey season, lake season, birthday parties, graduation parties, there's always going to be barriers. And I think that's where like the supplements and pills kind of like, like at the end of the day, having a good foundation and a good relationship with food like really makes the biggest difference of all. And had I known this would be a question, I would have done my research so that we could have a more science-based conversation about this. But I really don't know. We might have to come back to that question another time, or I'll have to let you know what the answers are for this person, or maybe I'll have to reach out.
I think it's more the question I got based off of what I know. I think it's not so much that they're looking into it; they're just interested. It seems to be a hot topic right now, and so we're really interested to hear your thoughts. Which I assumed, and I think they would know too, that most of your answers relate back to the same thing. It's movement and healthy balance and eating. It's just interesting to talk about different things, but there's this. It seems like when you talk to people like you or a good nutritionist, the funnel of questions start here and they go down, and it almost always trickles back to the same. Eat a veggie, eat a protein, go walk outside, work out. So it's just, I wouldn't think too deep into that one. I don't think this person's going to get on that medication or anything, but I did have a kind of a two-sided piece here about like the pharmaceutical industry and how a lot of people will go into a clinic or go see their primary care physician and high blood pressure or high cholesterol, and then now they're taking high blood pressure medicine every single day without any other changes in lifestyle. So I was going to ask you, one, I imagine you've had a handful of clients who were on those medications and you reverse that. If you have any success wins there, and then best practices for change in eating to lower cholesterol and lower high blood pressure.
Yeah, it's one of our most fun wins when we can get people off their meds. Some people say to the doctors, just give me the meds because I'm not going to change. And that's okay, right? You do you. But when people come to us specifically and they say, I want to get off these meds, or I want to avoid going on meds, because sometimes their doctor gives them an ultimatum where it's like, okay, like you need to go on these meds. And they're like, just give me 6 months. Like, I promise I'll like get my health together. And then we work with them for 6 months, and then they go back and their doctor's like, high five, you don't need to go on meds. And it's very tear worthy because a lot of people don't want to go on these meds. So it's really, really fun. On my Instagram, there is a super fun success story of someone who's been in our program for 15 months. She just graduated and she had her results, her 2020 lipid panel, or 2021, and then her 2023. And she was in the kind of high yellow range. Like here it's like green good and yellow is high. And they were all, her cholesterol, like LDL, like triglycerides, was all in like the yellow high zone. And then when she graduated, they were all in the green, and we were like, this is the best thing that ever happened. And it's a lot of things that we just mentioned, like regular exercise. Walking is the most underrated tool for improving health. It truly is. And most people can do it. It's free. right? You just go for a walk. It's so underutilized, and most of our clients have a walking goal of some sort. It's either a distance or a time or steps if they have a fitness watch. So I would definitely say if you're trying to improve your blood pressure or your cholesterol, walk. And the study that I saw most recently, I don't know where it comes from, but I do remember the numbers, and they said 8,200 steps per day improves all of these health markers or helps prevent them. It was like heart disease, obesity, depression, and I was like, who would have thought walking would prevent, or reduce all these things? Like, walking is so magical, and people are like, oh, walking is lame. Walking is the answer. And so many of our clients who have struggled with plateaus and fat loss, I'm like, start your day with a 20-minute walk. And they're like, Dani, what's that going to do? Boom, they do it for 8 weeks and they're like, oh my gosh, I have so much energy and I'm down 10 pounds. And all I did was add a 20-minute walk before I go to work. And I'm like, Susan, I told you, girlfriend. So all that to say, walking is magical and very underrated. With blood pressure, limiting alcohol as much as possible is huge. Stress management, of course. I think stress management is one of those things that people don't really think of when they think of improving their health, but chronic stress leads to a lot of issues. It leads to most gut issues like digestion, constipation, diarrhea, just like dysbiosis, which is like an imbalance of good and bad bacteria in the gut, which leads to all these other problems down the road. Most gut issues stem from stress, chronic stress.
How does that correlate? Do you have a short answer for that or no?
I would say the short answer is, so when you're stressed, your body's in fight or flight. And when you're in fight or flight, your digestion, like your body doesn't care about optimal digestion. And that would be like the most simplified answer. But stress increases cortisol, and cortisol then, does all the other things, and then all the hormones become imbalanced, and it's just a wave effect, like a ripple effect. So it's funny because right now I'm in a gut health course for practitioners to learn more about gut health, and the person who runs it, Dr. Heather, who I had on my podcast, she's like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, we have people reach out from all over the world with all these gut problems that they have for years, and reducing their stress fixes like 80% of them. Like, it stems from stress, and we live in this grind society where everyone has like 3 jobs and they're just like working, and they're working while trying to achieve all these goals. And what we really need to do is chill, is just take a breath, take 5 deep breaths, and really realize the impact that stress has on our health, especially not only from the gut standpoint, but from a hormonal standpoint. We can order comprehensive hormone tests for clients, and a lot of them are women and moms that are so burnt out they can barely function, and they're like, I can't lose weight, I don't know why. And then we run these tests and they have depleted cortisol. They've had such chronic stress that now they're depleted, and that leads to so many like issues and other barriers. So we're kind of going sideways here, and you'll have to remind me what the question is, but it's just stress is
we started talking about high cholesterol and high blood pressure medication, but then you led into gut health, which is good. That was a topic too. So changes for gut health, which it sounds like stress management helps quite a bit.
Other things for gut health that are, I would say, people don't think about. Sunshine, exposing your body to natural light upon waking, actually chewing your food. A lot of the things that improve gut health seem silly. Like, people are like, no. Like, they think it's like this very fancy answer, and it's like, manage your stress, spend time outside, wake up to natural light, or once you wake up, expose your body to natural light. Slow down when you're eating. Because we live in this go, go, go grind society, we're always eating on the go, or we're shoveling food in our face for 5 minutes and then going back to the grind. And that doesn't help with digestion or gut health. So actually sit down for meals. Sit down. Don't be distracted. This is when you take a 10-minute break from phones and screens and just like be present with your food. Chew your food until it's applesauce consistency. If you've never done that, it feels really weird, but that's what we're supposed to do to optimize digestion. You can try it with a cracker, which is kind of what we do when we do group coaching. We have everyone bring a cracker similar to like a Triscuit cracker to class. Like, okay, put it in your mouth and chew it and count how many times you chew it until it dissolves in your mouth. And usually you get to 32 on average. That's how many times we should chew something that's chewable before we swallow it. And it's the weirdest feeling, and you feel like people can see you because you're chewing so much. But it's really what we should be doing to optimize digestion, and we just don't.
I do the opposite. Quite literally. I think I chew as little as I can and swallow. Like, no matter if I'm in a hurry or not.
And that's most people, and it really does make a difference, especially if you're struggling with GI issues like bloating after meals, or cramps. I would say bloating is probably the most common symptom that we get from clients is post-meal bloating. And the best thing you can do for that is before meals, get your body into a rest and digest state, because usually we're coming into meals in the fight or flight mode, right? And the body is not prepped to digest, because it's almost like you can picture when you're in this fight or flight mode, like your insides, your GI system, it's almost like tense, right? And it's kind of in this survival mode. And then we need to just take 5 deep breaths and sit down before meals to let your body prepare, and then slowly chew your food and eat that meal. Your meals should last 10 to 20 minutes, which is wild. If you set a timer and you eat your meal, you're probably going to be done in less than 5 minutes.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I can definitely say that. I can also admit that I was a walking is lame person. I would say until, I don't know, probably a couple of years ago, maybe around when COVID hit, when, sometimes that's all you could really do. I was definitely, Lindsay put me on to walking, and I was, walking's lame. You got to run or it's not really exercise. But I've since changed that. And it's interesting to hear you say that just walking 20 minutes a day extra over the course of so many months could have such a huge impact on your health and your life, weight, really anything.
Right. And if you can get to 8,200 steps or 8,000 to 9,000 a day, even better. But sometimes people start at 2,000, right? Like some of our clients have Fitbits, and when they come in, we're like, oh, if you have a fitness watch, what's your average step count? And they might say 3,100. Well, we're probably not going to tell them to get 10,000 steps, because right now they're not even close to that. That's an unrealistic jump. So we always have to work our way up to our goals, rather than going from 0 to 100. And I think that's where people have a hard time with success, is that, their baseline is really low with their nutrition and their movement habits, and they try to go to the other extreme, and it's really hard for them. And then they feel like failures, and then they end up back at square one because they're like, oh, I couldn't do 10,000 steps. Well, how about 5,000, right? You're doing 3, you can probably do 5. And once you can do 5 consistently, then go to 7, then go to 9. So it should be more of a progressive approach rather than 0 to 100. But if we go back to the cholesterol and the blood pressure thing, again, like a lot of the simple things are what make a big difference, like eating 5 to 6 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. This is a very simple thing. And when I tell people like we need to eat more fruits and veggies, they're like, really? That's what you're going to tell me? Like, yes, the answers are simple. Walking, stress management, sleeping 8 hours, eating 6 servings of fruits and veggies per day. The answers are simple, but people want to do the fancy things like lemon detoxes and apple cider shots and athletic greens. And the answers are sleep, strength training, fruits and veggies, walking, stress management, like those things, doing those consistently improves health markers more than anything else.
It just seems so crazy to think that we have more access to information than we've ever had in our entire lives. And we're going backwards. We're like, we want to simplify things. You're like, just do 5 things: walk, eat greens, eat a balanced meal, get outside. I'm paraphrasing here. And we have all this information. Like you said, you do, the lemon diet, the lemon shots, or the apple cider vinegar, or keto, or carnivore diet. Because I've done some of those things, 5, 6, 7 years ago, or tried them, or cut out carbs. And it's just kind of mind blowing how we have so much information, but yet we want to always come back to the simple things, and how people get lost in the education. How, I don't know. It's really perplexing to think that all these things are out there, and then we don't even need most of them. We don't even need those answers that are all online. The thousands of options.
Right. When people come to us, like our first phase is creating awareness around their habits. Like, okay, what are you doing now? Why are you doing it? What has worked for you in the past? What hasn't? Once we have these answers, then we start building a foundation, and these foundational habits are exactly that: strength training at least twice a week, working our way to 8,000 steps, sleeping 7 to 8 hours. Sleep is similar to walking, where sleep is so underrated for improving health and weight management. I feel like we live in a sleep deprived society because we're grinding and we're working so much, and we're working, and once we get home from work, like, we're constantly working now that work is available on our phones and our tablets and from home, that we're constantly working to try to make more money for what? To retire at 65? Like, it's like we work, and then we don't enjoy life till we're old and retired. It's what's the point, right? What's the point? So sleep and weight loss and health go hand in hand. When we are sleep deprived, we have higher cravings the next day for higher calorie, high carb foods the next day. And people wonder, oh my God, why is weight loss so hard? Because you're not sleeping. And then when you don't sleep, you have higher cravings, which makes it harder for you to be disciplined with the healthy habits. And a lot of times we prioritize working out over sleep when it should be really the other way around, right? A lot of times we sacrifice sleep to work out early, which I agree to an extent that it's important. But if you're sleep deprived, you should sleep first. And we've actually had people who are so exhausted, they're working out 5 days a week at 5 a.m. And we're like, okay, we're actually going to take away some of these workouts because you need to sleep more, because you not sleeping is impacting everything else.
What are some things that you would have going into the I guess not the holiday season, the summer holiday season? So Memorial Day tomorrow, 4th of July. I know you mentioned people get out and they're going to barbecues, or they're on the lake. It's lake season, especially for when you're going into crowds or with people who aren't really tracking their nutrition or who aren't really cognizant. They're just eating and drinking whatever. So really, any generic or basic tips for maintaining that balance on holidays, weekends, dining out, alcohol consumption, especially in a world where, like I mentioned, most people are just pounding beers, eating burgers, not really being super conscious.
Right. And it really depends if you actually care, right? Like I have friends and family members who don't care about improving their health or losing body fat or building muscle. So in that situation, I go, knock yourself out, do whatever you want, right? Like if you don't care, then that's fine. Like it's okay if you don't want to change. Some people should change and they don't want to, and that's okay. But if you do want to go into the summer and you want to maintain where you're at, or you want to improve your health, but there's these barriers. I think summer is the hardest time of year. Summer and then Thanksgiving to Christmas are like the two hardest times for our clients. Like they're in the program, they have all the support and accountability, but it's still hard because that's when everybody gets out of this hibernation, especially in North Dakota. It's been -40. It was the longest winter ever for 5 months. Like nobody sees each other unless you go to a hockey game. And then suddenly it's nice out and everyone's like, come to my grad party, come to my barbecue, come to the lake for 4 days. Let's have like chips and beer on the boat. So, and that's where having a good relationship with food is so important, because even though lake season and the Christmas holiday season are the most difficult times, like I said earlier, there's always going to be something. Always. There's always going to be a dinner party, a work lunch meeting, you know, like there's always some reason to celebrate. There's always a reason to get together with people, and food brings people together. So 99% of the time, if you're with other people, there's food and or drinks, right? So if you have this all or nothing mindset, it's probably not going to go well, because you're going to go into these social situations in the nothing mindset, right? You were all in, you were perfect, you were quote unquote good, but then your friends are like, let's go get margaritas and tortilla chips and tacos. And you're like, I was so good this week. YOLO, I can do whatever I want, right? Then you have unlimited margarita pitchers, chips and queso. And then you wake up Monday, you're like, oh crap, now I'm back to square one, right? So having a good relationship with food, which means having a balanced mindset where it doesn't have to be that way. Like you can go out for margs and tacos and not overdo it. And that's what we have to teach people to do. Like, because people want to have fun, but they want to stay in line with their goals. And that's something we have to teach them how to do. So not going in with that mindset like, oh, it's going to be a failure, because you're already telling yourself that, right? And then I think listening to your body is a skill that is so, so key in these situations, which helps if you have a good relationship with food again. But you know, it's kind of like if you go to a graduation party, which I just did Thursday, there's always like a huge spread of food. Or you go to the lake and it's just like a giant picnic table's worth of food. So it's one, I would say like my recommendation in these buffet type situations where there's just loads and loads of food is one, scope out all your choices before you grab a plate. Just walk around, take a lap, and see what's available. Then grab a plate. Always grab a plate. I always tell my clients, and my coaches do this too, is it's really hard to process mentally what you eat if you don't put it on a plate, right? If you're just standing next to a table of appetizers, think like at a wedding or a party, and there's all these like tiers or trays of little finger foods. If you're just grabbing it with your fingers and putting it in your mouth, you lose track of how much you're eating. So always grab a plate. And then once you scope out all your options and you have a plate, is just pick the things that you really want. Even if they're not balanced, try to create balance, right? Try to, right? Like some produce, some protein, and some carb foods. So try to create that balance, but grab the things that you want. For example, I love chips and queso. So when you said the tortilla chips example, like I get it, because that's definitely my nemesis, is like chips and queso or chips and guac at a Mexican restaurant. And most grad parties that I go to have chips and queso. I don't know if it's like a Grand Forks thing, but and I'm like, yes, chips and queso. I love it. But I'm not just going to have chips and queso, because I could eat that all day and still not be full. So it's like, okay, what sounds good? I'm going to put that on my plate. And I'm not really going to put things on my plate that I can have all the time, especially when it's like seasonal stuff, right? If we're thinking about the Christmas holidays, because it's very specific, right? There's things that you eat during the Christmas holidays that you don't really eat any other time of year. So when I go to a Christmas party and there's like a cheese tray of like cheese cubes, I'm probably not going to put cheese cubes on my plate, because I can have cheese cubes anytime. But my grandma's meatballs, that happens once a year. So I'm going to go for that and not fill up on cheese cubes. So it's almost like playing this game where it's like, okay, what sounds good and what are the foods that I can only really enjoy now that I also want? And putting that on your plate, and if you take a bite and something's not that great, don't finish it. Right? Back to that, clean plate mentality. Like, it's okay to not finish your plate or to finish that scoop of food. If you don't know if you're going to like something, don't serve yourself a giant scoop. Put like a tablespoon's worth portion on your plate. Sample it. Think of like a Costco Sam's Club sample, right? It's just one bite to see if you like it. And then if you love it, then get more. And I hate wasting. So I don't want to throw out food. So to prevent that, just put a tiny tablespoon bite of things that you're not sure if you like, and then whatever you love, get more of it, and then you eat it until you're pleasantly full. That is the key to eating out or eating in social situations. It's slowing down so that you can determine when you're pleasantly full or slightly full, and that's your stopping point. Especially if you don't want to overdo it. If you're going in like, I really don't want to overindulge, but I want to enjoy these foods, that's exactly what you do. So for example, I go to the graduation party, I put some chips and queso on my plate. Maybe I'll put some, veggies and hummus to balance it out. And maybe I went to a party and there was like Chick-fil-A chicken nuggets. So here I am. I got some nuggets, I got some protein, I got some veggies and dip. And then I have some chips and queso. Boom. I have protein, carbs, fat, and produce. Magical. It all sounds delicious. It's balanced. And then I'm going to eat that until I'm slightly full. If at the end of my plate, I'm not slightly full, maybe I'm neutral. Maybe I'm like, oh, I'm not full yet. And I'm not even close to being full, because that can happen. Then get a little bit more of whatever your favorite was, right? And then once you're slightly full, stop. You gotta stop there. And that's a hard skill some people don't know when they're slightly full, right? Those sensations are gone because for 30 years, they have pushed past that point. So we have to help them get back to that. And it's a very innate skill that we have, right? You have a toddler and, babies are the most intuitive humans of all, right? They cry when they're hungry. They get on the boob or they get a bottle. And then when they're done, right? They just stop. And then 2 hours later, they're like, I'm hungry again. And you're like, oh my gosh, right? But we lose that because when our kids are older, we force them to finish their plates. We force them to eat when they're not hungry. So we lose those innate hunger fullness cues. And next thing you know, we're 30, 40-year-old adults and we don't know when we're full because for 30 years, we just ate when we're bored. We ate past our our fullness cues.
Just graze all the time.
Yeah. And I just did a class on emotional eating with our clients, and I have an upcoming one June 8th for the public, and it's all about this. It's all about knowing how to listen to your body and knowing how to manage emotions around food. And it's such a life-changing skill to have, because once you have these skills, you can go on vacation, have a great time, enjoy delicious food, and come back feeling great instead of feeling groggy and like you gained 10 pounds.
Yeah, we just recently went to Florida, and we're pretty mindful. We enjoyed ourselves, but didn't go crazy. And I did feel great coming back. I weigh myself often, came back a little bit higher than I intended, but I mean, it fell off pretty quick too. So.
Right. That post-vacation weight, people think like, oh my God, I ruined all my progress. I gained like 3 pounds after vacation. No, like you did not gain 3 pounds of fat over 5 days.
Sure.
That's not how it works. When you go out to eat or when you go on vacation, you typically have more carbs, more salt, more alcohol. All of these things can lead to water retention, especially the carbs and the salt, because when you eat out, there's just more carbs and salt. It's just, that's why food is so good. And more fats. So you have more food in your body, like physically in your GI system, and then you have water retention. So yeah, the scale is almost always going to go up after vacation, but if you get back to your regular habits, you don't need to fast, you don't need to do a detox, just get back to your regular habits. Wake up, go for a walk, build balanced meals, get 8 hours of sleep, hydrate, boom, within a few days, your weight will be back to your pre-vacation weight.
Dani, what would you say to a client who is kind of on the fence about doing nutrition coaching, whether that be with you or somebody else? How are you closing your clients per se, bringing them on board after a consultation and showing them the light?
Well, I think it really comes down to, and the goal of the discovery call, or like, you know, chatting with people that are on the fence, for me, it's not about making a sale. It's about, can I help this person, right? Like, because sometimes we can't. Sometimes the person is not the right fit for our program. Sometimes we have to refer out. So I like to have these discovery calls because I really like to dig deep and ask this person so many questions to figure out what's going on. Like tell me in your own words what you're struggling with, and let me see if I can help you. Let me figure out if I have the solution to your problem. If I do, I'm going to tell you that I have the solution, and I'm going to give you an overview of what that solution and what that journey looks like. And if you're buying in, if you're like, you know what, this sounds like what I need, then great. Then we move forward. But you know, if this person doesn't trust our process, if this person's like, no, I want to lose 20 pounds in 30 days, I'm like, well, Susan, that's not what we do. You know, I'm not going to put you at 1,200 calories on day one so that you can lose 20 pounds before your vacation. So it's really, you know, it's more than that. Like, I really care about all of our clients, and I want them to have sustainable results more than anything. And I want them to be confident and happy and healthy more than anything. Even if that means that I have to refer them, even if that means that we have to work together for 12 months, because sometimes it takes that much time, especially people that have a crazy yo-yo dieting history or an awful relationship with food. Just think, like, if your goal is to lose the 40 pounds, how long did it take you to put on those 40 pounds? For most people, it's a lifetime's worth of gradual weight gain. Well, it's not going to happen overnight. And I think people forget to ask themselves that question. Like, okay, how long did it take for me to get here? Okay, it took 10 years. Why are you expecting results in 3 months? Like, this took 10 years. So when people are on the fence, it's really, you know, it's not about convincing them that pivot is for them. It's like, what are you struggling with? What are the barriers? What are you trying to achieve? Okay, are your goals realistic? Because if not, I'll be like, okay, like, how about this? How would you feel about this instead of this? Right? Because some people are like, my wedding's in 60 days. I want to lose 30 pounds. I'm like, how about 10? Right? Because I don't want to do anything unsustainable. The last thing I want is for people to have temporary results, because nobody wants to invest time, money, and energy into temporary results. And if they do, I mean, interesting. But you know, like, no, most people don't want temporary results. And it's just not healthy to lose and put on the same 20 pounds over and over. That's just metabolic damage. And so, yeah, I would say if you're on the fence, just reach out. Let's have a conversation. Let's figure out what you're struggling with. And if we have the solution, then I'm going to tell you straight up, like, hey, we can help. And I'm confident that we can help you achieve XYZ if you're willing to trust the process and put in the work. It's almost like I'm qualifying them for the program, because if someone doesn't trust the process and if they're not willing to put in the work, well, we can't help them.
That's good stuff. Well, Dani, before we wrap up and let you go, tell us where we can find you and maybe kind of where the direction of Pivot is going, or what services you're offering, or any of your spiel that where people can find you and reach out.
Yeah, for sure. So website is probably the best place to learn more about Pivot and to read client success stories. The cool thing about Pivot, it's not just for women, it's not just for athletes. We work with a range of people. We have high school athletes, college athletes, pro athletes, but our biggest clientele is adults. So just regular people like moms and dads and teachers and social workers and doctors that just want to look and feel their best and be healthy at the same time. Like people say, like, Dani, I just want to feel better. And that's what we help people do. So definitely read through those testimonials, because I can almost guarantee that anyone who goes through that testimonial section will find at least one person they can relate to, whether it's an athlete, a mom, a dad, a grandparent, because we have like a bunch of grandparents in the program, or couples. So definitely check those out so that you can get a client feel of what Pivot's all about, because it's different reading success stories, of these clients in their own words versus me being like, this is Pivot. So the website is pivotnutritioncoaching.com. And you could message me through that website. You can apply for coaching by scheduling a discovery call. Those are with me, where we chat for 20 to 25 minutes and just get to know each other. And I give more details about the program and the different options. They're also pretty well laid out in the website as well. And then for people on social media, the place I'm most consistent is my Instagram at Dani the RD. RD stands for Registered Dietitian. Sometimes people are like, Dani the Road, because like RD is an abbreviation for road, right? When you read like a street sign. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it is not Dani the Road. But yeah, I would say pivotnutritioncoaching.com or at Dani the RD on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, Dani, thank you for your time and the insight. I really appreciate it. And I enjoy listening to your podcast. You also have a podcast, if you want to mention that. Your solo episodes are really, really good. The guest ones are good as well, but I think it's really hard to do a solo one by yourself. I could never do that. So I always try to commend people on that. But First Pivot, correct?
Yep, But First Pivot. So it's a combination of solo podcasts, which are not my favorite, to be honest, because so much work goes into it in terms of planning. When I have a guest, it's more of like I can wing it and just have a conversation. But yeah, solo podcasts that are more educational. For example, like, one of my most recent solo podcasts is I walk people through my meal prep process, or I talk about fat loss versus weight loss, or I talk about 5 healthy habits you can do daily, things like that. And then I'll have clients come on the podcast. A lot of them are local, which is fun. I get to bring them in the studio. So they tell their stories. And recently I've had a handful of other professionals or dietitians on to talk about things like gut health, fertility, women's hormones, birth control, things like that. So it's fun to have a little combination of all the things on the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Your solo podcasts are very educational. I enjoy them. So,
well, thank you. Maybe I'll do, now that I have this feedback, I'll try to include more of those for you, my friend.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on once again and all the good info. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Justin.